Okay, I think we're in business. Right on. Cool. So, welcome to Casual Chat Live. I am Brian Germain, and I have one of the best guests. I'm so pleased, Melissa, to have you here. Melissa Nelson-Lowe is here. Awesome. Welcome.
Thank you so much. This is exciting.
It is. It's so neat to be able to connect with. I mean, frankly, part of this, all of this stuff, is to be able to reconnect with some of my favorite people. And it turns out I have I have good taste in friends. And
you sure do.
I do. And so, I mean, we've got questions that are queued up by people, and I'm sure there's going to be more coming in. Other people joining in the session or asking questions here in the chat window, which if you're just new to the Zoom thing, you go to the bottom, click on chat, and you'll see what's going on. But the scrolling sometimes happens quickly, so bear with us if we miss your question. I suppose you can always ask it again in the chat. But Melissa, tell me, what's new for you? What's going on in your life?
Oh my gosh, I've got quite a bit going on. I'm thrilled to be almost complete publishing my second book, which is a series about my father in skydiving. And I'm running an Indiegogo campaign, which has been completely funded. So I'm going the extra mile right now because I'd love to make these books audio books. I don't know if you guys are like me, but I love podcasts. I love books. I was just about to say books on tape, but
yeah,
they're not really on tape anymore. But audio books, I can just devour those all the time, and I believe that we can reach more people will have access to it, because it's really hard for me, especially as a mom, to sit down and open a book. So that's my next goal, is to make these audiobooks. So yeah, it's a pretty big project, and I started a new job in February with Drop Zone Marketing with the Drop Zone Marketing guru, James Lavari. He is absolutely phenomenal, and I feel very fortunate to be working with him. It's super fun, just because I get an opportunity to not be tied to one drop zone, but be able to share my experience with the drop zones who are our clients. So it's awesome. It's really awesome. And I'm a mom.
and being a mom that's news in itself. It's huge, isn't it? It changes a lot. It doesn't change everything. And a lot of people are worried that, oh my God, if I breed, that's the end of my skydiving career. No, it doesn't have to be. It can be if you choose, but to bring your kids to the drop zone, and you grew up on the drop zone, it's a great place to grow up.
Yeah, it's great. My son loves going to the drop zone. My husband just opened a drop zone, and I'm representing Ultimate Skydiving Adventures.
Awesome.
And Benjamin, my son, who's almost 3, loves to get in the plane. He can identify where the primer, throttle, mixture, ignition switches are.
Nice.
And he'll push the airplane back. He knows, we'll ask him, what's the most dangerous part of a plane? And he'll look and say, propeller. And
nice.
He can identify all parts of the plane. He loves to run out to Ben and I when we land. He can identify, Ben's usually doing tandems. I'm in the pink parachute, so he always knows who mommy and daddy is.
Yep.
And we're not out there, well, I'm not out there all the time with the kids, so it's really special time for him, and he loves it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. To see my kids on the drop zone and learning, soaking up stuff they're not going to get anywhere else. This is a very distinctive education, and it's filling in the gaps in ways that are valuable and meaningful to me.
Yep.
Not everybody cares and is equally proud when their kid sits down and knows where the throttle is, or knows what, that's the ignition. Right. Don't touch that. Leave the master off. Don't mess with the radios, please, because it means we have to reset all the frequencies.
Yep.
My kids have also learned those lessons again and again and again. Don't touch that.
Yeah.
Like Dick Swanson said to me in my first jump course when he referred to the Cape Wells, dating myself, said, these are called Cape Wells. They are for not to touch. That's all I knew about Cape Wells for years. So I love what you're doing here. The drop zone marketing is one of the things that drop zone managers and owners they all get a sense of roughly how to do this, but there's a lot to know that you don't even know that you don't know it. And your dad was one of the best who's ever walked the earth in terms of creatively solving this problem of how do we get, when we've got this amazing product, you know, we believe in it, how do we reach out to the world and bust them in, or, you know, how do we get access to a larger crowd? I think you're profiting from
a
lot of that. Right?
I have something really fun to share. Hold on.
I love fun. Bring it on.
So I was just recently at a Skydive Elsinore, and Carl had this there, but this is my dad's Drop Zone seminar marketing package from 1999.
Nice.
And it has all the outlines of how to market. It's just really cool. I've been sharing this stuff with James just because it seems so full circle that, you know, coming to.
It is. How do we, your video kind of froze for a moment, but it came back. There's core principles that can be laid out in an organized way, like your dad did, and he was obviously pretty damn successful. And I think he had an organized approach, and that was a big part of why he was successful. But I also believe that he had something else going for him that was distinctive, that he had unbridled, authentic love for skydiving. He didn't hold back. He really loved sharing this with people, didn't he? And I think that was this contagious energy. And I think that's what sold, if you will, more than anything else. Am I right? So how do we? How do we teach that? How do you teach that?
Which part? Teaching the marketing or that unbridled enthusiasm for what you do? Because both. I think a lot of skydivers get into the sport. They're at a drop zone. They realize that it could be so much better because of whatever their experiences are or places that they visited, and think they can go out and do it on their own. You become obviously entrepreneurial at that point, and there is so much to do with business than just running a drop zone. And it is exhausting because you have the whole behind the scenes, and anybody who's a professional skydiver knows it, because you're building your brand, your entity. And if you start from scratch, that's a big mountain to climb. But if you start with a lot of resources and networking before making those steps, you're more apt to be more successful and more apt not to lose your drive. And I see so many people, not just in drop zone owning, but just as a jumper, people are just like all in and then poof, disappear. So there's definitely that fun jumper aspect of it, all the way to the drop zone owner aspect of it.
Right. Yeah. There's like you say, there is a machine that we build called the drop zone, which is the airplanes and where you're going to pack the parachutes, and you need the right kind of parachutes, the good stuff, right? All of that, but it doesn't do anything until you get some students in there, until you get some jumpers to come to your drop zone, and that's a technology in and of itself, and it's invisible. And I think that's where somebody like you, who has the know-how, and I've run into a number of other folks that are very good at this stuff, and I feel like the technology of how to do that is evolving, isn't it? Right? The Twitter, it didn't exist. Your dad didn't tweet, and so now what else can we do? Didn't tweet. But what else can modern technology, if you will, modern technology do to get?
And modern technology is daunting.
Yeah,
it's daunting. There's so many different things. There's so many different platforms. Everybody feels like they need to be every single place to be exposed, and it's really easy to get lost And just like you would before all this technology, you still need to build strategy on how you're going to build your social presence and tell your business's story and where you're going to tell it, who's going to be telling it, because when it's the smaller the drop zone, you do more of the duties. The bigger the drop zone, you need to delegate. And I know a lot of drop zones struggle from the mid-size to the larger, letting go of some of this and putting people in charge that are really good. Some people believe that just posting is going to do you good, but it is so different. The one for me, this is a geeky part of me. I thrive on figuring out, like, what is Facebook changing? Why is it changing? And strategizing how I can use that to capitalize on what I do. And there's so many different layers that if I were to tell a drop zone owner all this stuff, they'd look at me like, I just want to jump out of planes, which I don't blame them, because that's a lot more fun.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to also remind our viewers that if you're here on Zoom, drop more questions into chat. We'd love to hear from you. This is an important topic. This is so valuable what we're talking about, that it's kind of make or break. I mean, even if you don't own a drop zone, you want to see your drop zone thrive. It's one of the most important concepts, is that if your drop zone grows, you've got more, in your playground. You've got more places to sleep, maybe, if they get rich enough to build a bunkhouse. All of it grows. And I think that to nurture everyone's abundance, I think that's the secret. That's why I do this. I shine the light on you. It's not about me, because love. Because
awesome.
Love.
James Lavari is amazing. One of the things that I really gravitate towards him, and I have been following James for quite a while, since he was the DZM at Skydive Carolina, because he hired me as a load organizer for Carolina Fest. And after leaving that event, I sat back and went, wow, that was the first time I ever felt like a professional athlete. And I immediately zoomed in on him. I'm like, he's doing something really special. And it really reminded me a lot of the good qualities of my dad that he had in a different package, because he was James, like he was his own person. He had his own stamp and mark from his personal experiences. And before I was even really in a marketing role, my husband sent me out to do one of his seminars that really talked about building the culture and how to do it. He had and I was blown away. I went, whoa, this is all the stuff my dad was doing back then, but he has shifted the perception and carried it on with his own legacy because of his family's business in Antigua, where he's from. And it's just really cool to be a part of his team now, and being able to help drop zones do this whole package, not just marketing, but helping consulting and helping them build the culture at their drop zones. It's pretty dynamic, challenging, and so awesome and fulfilling.
For sure. Now, we did have a question coming in chat relative to what we've been talking about here. And it's how do you bring the value of the fireside chat, kind of what we're doing here, but I call it the campfire culture, right, where we do most of our learning in this sport, to the modern social platforms, and so I think that's really, it's a big question. It's not necessarily a question about the marketing of it, but how do we use this technology, leverage this technology to create a campfire discussion ongoing? I think we can do that, can't we?
Yeah, I think it's really great. Melanie Curtis does something called the Virtual Skydiving Center, which I really like, because that really is an encouraging, safe environment for new jumpers. So if you haven't heard of it, check it out. Virtual Skydiving Center, hosted by Melanie Curtis. However, outside the scope of that, I have been saying this for years, but our mentorship has always sucked. And I don't know if I have an absolute answer to that. I think Melanie Curtis is definitely going in a step in the right direction, especially capitalizing on the technologies that we have available to us now. But Melanie's one of those special people, right? Like my dad has the energy and unbridled enthusiasm for the sport. So does Melanie. So she's a really good person to help rein in these jumpers, to help give them goals and directions to stay in the sport longer.
Yeah.
But I really believe that talking about the culture, the whole culture of skydiving has a lot of residuals of the past. Brian, you could totally relate to this because when we started, it had a lot of old school, no holds barred, take no prisoners, sky god attitude. And it's still residuals in our sport and our culture where I'll go to drop zones and I'll watch AFF instructors packing, debriefing a student, or they'll be on their phone or texting, or in one of my pet peeves that I learned, my husband really helped me become a better instructor for this, but talking to students the whole way down. My husband was like, well, of course you should be able to talk a student down, but have you taught them how to do that so you don't talk on the radio? So there's all these things that I see that we can start from the very, very foundation of when people start skydiving. If we create better instructors that care, have passion, have some skill and experience behind their belt, because I really believe the USPA minimums are way too low because we have so many more people in the sport now, and we always find that there's a gap after they graduate their air license. It's a mystery to most people what to do next, especially if they're at a big drop zone.
Yeah, subterminal air. That's what it feels like. You jump out of the plane and you're an A license holder. Welcome to it. This is, you are going to have to wait a while for the wind to pick up. You just keep jumping and you learn enough to survive. So then what?
Yeah,
then
exactly. So I really think that we need to start changing the culture from the very since we're on the topic, one of my goals in the future is to become national director. I have a lot of ambition. I have no idea what it's going to be like. It's been a while since I've really been that actively involved. But with wrapping up publishing the book, I need a new project, and I really want to give back because I do have so much value to bring to the sport that I would love to be able to channel it to help keep building the sport, not just USPA.
yeah, and to build the sport and to build the skydivers, the individuals that are within the sport, because that's one of the things that easily gets missed when you're in drop zone management or you're in the bigger perspective of USPA or FAI or whatever. Everybody starts to kind of look like a number, and none of them are.
Yeah,
you might have a license number, you have a USPA number, but they're all individuals with different needs, different strengths, different fears, different limitations that they're superimposing on an unlimited experience, different areas where they've been undereducated. And that's the one that I try to focus on the most, is where are these individuals undereducated? And it's different. They're all different, where you just talking, you're teaching, you realize, oh my gosh, you didn't know that? Why didn't they tell you that? I don't know, maybe the instructor had a hangover and he forgot to say that. But these people are in the pattern with us. You know what I mean? These people are in the airplane with us, and you're asking that guy to give you a pin check when nobody taught him how. It's not his fault. And so to me, this idea of mentorship is compassion driven, where you look people in the eye and you actually try to help. I continue to call it
exactly
a high level of give a shit. We got to bring that up.
Absolutely.
Our level of give a shit.
I noticed that. I also noticed as a load organizer too, and I know you get a lot of these people in your courses. And you're doing just simple things. There's some things I'll just randomly ask because I'll have a red flag of why they didn't know something, especially in free flying with line of flight. Just putting it out there to make sure we're all on the same page and we're all being safe, and asking how people break off. And when someone says they don't understand something, I'll throw it in conversation and ask them, hey, you don't do a gear check. Is there a reason why you don't do a gear check? Hey, you're pilot chute sticking out, or just something. Or I quiz people about exit order. Why do you think it's like this, especially around the 100 jump, just to make sure that they got the information. I noticed a lot of people, younger kids, do get a lot of the information because a lot of this stuff is online, so they can do a little bit of research. So some people do their due diligence and they find the information and put it together, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But sometimes you still need to have someone tailor it to that person so the concept is whole.
Yeah. Expand it in a way that makes it their own. And
exactly.
Disembodied fact. Random factoids floating around in space are kind of useless. I mean, distance from clouds or whatever. First of all, how are you going to measure the distance from the clouds? I want people to be able to, in this moment, while we're in the door, does that look okay to you? That's the kind of stuff, you're under canopy, you're going through your checklist of what is most important to you right now. What's occurring in your stream of consciousness as you visualize your skydive? You just got open. What are you thinking about? Where are you looking? Where's the danger coming from? I think that's the kind of outside the box good coaching and teaching that needs to be continue to grow, because there are people that are kicking butt. They are doing great teaching.
Yeah.
I just want to see everybody do great.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
For sure. Good. Now, there was some other comments. I don't know if you can see the chat here that were coming in with regards to fireside chat was basically say old school bonfire. Yeah, which is, I love that. Without everybody being so trash that they don't remember anything, right? Let's be honest, sometimes people are a little drunk at the campfire, unless you technically, from a psychological standpoint, unless you're drunk when you take the test. If you studied drunk, it's useless information. So I don't think you should be taking a test drunk. So maybe you shouldn't study too. So kudos to Ben. Radio is the assist, learn judgment. Well, this is somebody chiming in saying that we need to be learning judgment, and the radio is a backup, not a primary. Right. Now, have you experimented with teaching without radio entirely? Some people have, some people haven't.
Not in AFF, really. In AFF, at least for the first 7 levels, I have most of my experience doing a 20 jump program. So by the time they got to their 7th jump, even though they were still under guidance of an instructor, not just a coach, especially with the program Ben and I developed together, by jump 7, we tried to just ditch the radio. Some people needed it a little bit longer, and how I would teach a class would be giving them all the tools. When I was really current teaching the AFF class, I couldn't do it under 8 hours, and I challenged myself to do it. And there's just something up teaching them. I taught them how to do a gear check. So from their first jump, they were doing their gear check, and myself and the other instructors wouldn't touch their 3 rings and dawdle all over them. We're like, well, I taught you. What do you see? Is it right? And we would teach them how to ask for a gear check, who to ask for a gear check. So anyways, I couldn't lessen and deepen my class, and doing that, I would almost forget to tell them that we were going to put a radio on them. I had one person in a class ask me, like, how do you talk to us? I was like, oh yeah. Oh, by the way, we're giving you a radio. But I just want to let you know, if you don't hear anything, you're doing good. If you hear us, we're just guiding you along. And if you don't hear anything after that, you're doing good. You're back on track. Because one thing I liked what Ben said is when we are talking to them, they don't think. they just stop thinking. So I really, that's one of my favorite things to do, is to be able to teach them as if they don't have radio. And most of the times, I would say about 50% of the students we would have never really used it. And they just got it because they got the information, they got the guidance. And it's interesting now, being a mom, I apply those same things with my kid. I know you do the same thing.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, exactly. To give the freedom to learn in a dangerous environment, like as a parent, it's terrifying. Here, go play with these sharp objects. That's pretty much what we're doing.
Yeah.
In skydiving. And if we don't do that, then we're not being good parents, because we're being overprotective. And if we overprotect, where we're like, turn left, keep turning, stop your turn, good, hold that heading. And we do that all the way to the ground. We're remote control people. They don't learn squat. And then when they're out on their own, they're going to be in big trouble. So I wonder how much we can sort of find this balance where you just let them explore, but you say things that draw their attention to what they need to be thinking about. Where are you? How high are you? How is your breathing, darling? You know, that's what I wanted to, like, are you having fun? Are you looking around? Are you happy? Are you enjoying? How do your feet feel? You know, the things that I wish somebody would remind me to do every single jump. You know, have you cleared your visor? I mean, do all these little details. Yeah. Have you loosened your chest strap enough that you can breathe? Or are you holding your toggles in clenched fists? Or you're loosening up to save energy and relax yourself a bit more, you know? That's the stuff that even after their 10th jump, I feel like people could benefit from just those reminders. All right, you're turning final approach. Big, beautiful breath in and hold and let it out slow and smile. You don't tell them to flare, you know? You just tell them to, you know, the things that make them wake up into the present moment, right?
Yeah.
What if we did that? So
definitely.
You know, can you see there's some other stuff that came in on the chat? And now, we also have to remember that we've got 42 questions that came in from Marcus that we should also look at. Who did Kate Cooper Jensen didn't get through all of them, so we need to look at those. But I think it's only fair to. So, is there something in here that you wanted to grab?
Oh man, Marcus, if you're on, these are awesome questions, by the way. I guess to give the audience a little bit of background, I'm not sure who's all on right now, but I have been doing and a part of world record since 2002 or 3, and pretty much leading all the women's vertical world records with Amy Shemalecki. I participate in the co-ed world record oftentimes as the plane captain. I have done the 151 jump for the cause women's belly flying world record. I've done a women's wingsuit world record, done the upright record, sequential head down record. So I have a lot of experience, and I really like some of the questions that Marcus has, and I think they're the questions that people are afraid to ask. So one of the things that I liked is he was asking, let's see, which one? Is there one thing that big wave jumpers are most afraid of? How do you and organizers address this? And it's really interesting because I think people think just because someone's a badass and they've had a lot of experience that everything is all cool, calm, and collective. I have to tell you, I do, because of a lot of the world records I do have a calmness about me because I understand the emotions that are happening. I know that we're all on this journey together. And every world record is different because no skydive is the same. Everything that you've trained up to that point, when you're actually doing the attempts, you now have the pressure. You have judges, you have fans that are expecting, you don't want to go to your home drop zone and be the guy that didn't make it. So there's all these other outside pressures, and especially on social media, So I think it's a little harder now to keep those emotions in check. And I don't know if there's one thing that people are afraid of. If I were to say it, I would say it would be failure. I think people spend so much time and money for this goal, and they do have that expectation. Yeah, that if they don't make it, then they I don't know, they're the loser on the drop zone, or the guy they'll be known as the guy that didn't make it. I'm about to start a series called "I Was Cut from a World Record," and it talks about all these people. I got the goosebumps right now because I'm the one who has to cut people on the women's record. It totally sucks. Yeah. But I have witnessed some of these women just go back into skydiving and charge and train their asses off and get that world record because they want it so bad, even though it's going to take them an extra 2 years. That to me is awesome. Can you see the goosebumps? I have goosebumps.
I know what you mean. Yeah, it's like, they start to realize it's not who I am, it's just what I did. Who I am is my intention. It's my goal, and it's an ongoing evolutionary process. And I'm not getting married to the results of this specific competition, or if I ended up going to the bench, because I know I'm going to be part of this formation. I just need to keep moving forward. Yeah, I love it. Mm-hmm. Yep. The bench is not a bad place.
Yeah, and it's not. And there is one girl, I'm going to give her a total shout out. Her name is Angela Casino, and she jumps out in Southern California. And this last women's world record we did in November, it was really shitty because we were in a position where there were so many slots in the plane, and we were just not building the attempt where we had to trim down. And to make that decision, it just meant somebody, even though there are people the same skill level, was going to have to be cut. And not necessarily about their skill level, and they were improving on every single jump. Sometimes logistics have to win out, and she got hosed because of one of those things. And her social media posts were so inspiring and awesome to know that it didn't damper her in the sport. And I think she's going to be a really great ambassador because she's on it. She's still on the journey, and how she takes it from here is up to her. But I've seen people in her position just go back and train in the tunnel and get a coach and just go at it harder, so they wouldn't even be considered to be cut on the next one. So it's Angela, you're awesome.
Yeah, it's like the people that show up without an ego. They show up with passion and drive to learn, and sort of that never-ending process of becoming a better skydiver. And I guess who was it, Bob Moore, that said we become better skydivers by being better people. And it turns out it works the other way around too, which is cool. The ego seems to get in the way, and I think it's important to take a closer look at what we mean by that, because there's a sense of confidence, a sense of self, all can be very, very beneficial. But what about this fragile self that feels like it has to defend, this is who I am, this identity, and if you get in my face about it and you question it, well, then I'm going to fight back. And the attack comes, I think, from this fragile, illusory, in my opinion, place. It's not even real. So I think it's best, if you want to be good, cut it away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. So there's another question that Marcus had asked. I don't see it in this thread. He might have asked me somewhere else, but he had asked me about what's it like being a mom, and I don't remember verbatim what his question was, but hopefully this will answer it. Let's see, I had an emergency C-section with my son, and 2 months later was the vertical sequential world record. In fact, I registered to go to this event because I saw all my friends were going, and I had no idea it was a world record skydive. But even in pregnancy, I kept all my stuff current because that's just what you do. So I up and I was 30 pounds heavier than normal and I completely struggled, but I was in an environment with my friends who were totally encouraging and they never looked down on me, and they helped me get whatever I need. I got a suit from a friend and everyone. I because I know what it's like to be in that organizer slot and be like, oh my God, if you have to cut me, I have no qualms about it. It's okay. We got my kid and my husband here. I'm totally fine. Then we're going to be on it. Get yourself a suit and get back up there. And I was like, wow, they have so much faith and trust in me because they know my skill. I really wasn't current. I did 4 jumps before the record and I hadn't jumped in a year. So it took me a little bit to blow off the rust and get back to it. And yeah, I was on the attempts. And that was really fun. And not too long after that, I was on, I can't remember, the timeline's a little skewed, but I think it was the upright world record. And soon after that was the co-ed head down world record. And I remember I had so much fear when I was doing the upright world record. And I don't know why, but these were the thoughts I had in my head. I don't have to do this. What would life be like for my son if I wasn't here? What would he think of his mom that chose to do this over choosing not to do it and play it safe? What would it be like? Why would my mom take these risks? Did my mom choose this over me? And I have no basis where these thoughts came from. I never really thought of not ever skydiving or not ever participating in a world record after having kids. And I remember really having these butterfly feelings, heart in my throat, palms sweating moments that I really had to do what we always say, skydiving's 90% mental, 10% physical. So I really had to channel my thoughts and what do I want on this skydive? I'm going to do what I know how to do. I know how to fly. I just need to be relaxed and aware. And that's the key to survival in a big way, because if you are aware, you can foresee things happening before they happen, and you can be prepared to take action whatever you needed. And every single jump was like that. Every single jump. I never found a place where I felt comfortable doing that. Even fun jumping after that. And then doing the co-ed head down world record a few months later, I was challenged with those same feelings. But now I'm in a leadership role, as in the upright record I was not. So I really felt forced to dig deep for that inner badass and know I had the skills and trust myself that I wasn't making a selfish decision. This is what I do. This is who I am. This is what makes me happy. This is just, I love doing world records. Challenge of them. I love being able to help bring people together, and whatever bad and negative stuff that happens, let's say someone in your sector gets caught and everyone's like, oh my gosh, and then, well, that guy fucked up and that guy didn't get caught, and I love channeling people to focus on the goal. And just like when I teach an AFF student to get past their fears, and I channel drama in world records, I love that. And I would never give it up. So every time I get down from a jump, more and more, I'm like, yep, this is awesome. This is why I do what I do. I don't feel like I'm taking a risk beyond my control. I did quit base jumping, and I don't foresee myself getting back into the sport. I do believe in taking calculated risks, like doing world records is within reason for my skill. And yeah, it's as simple as that. I try not to complicate it. I love what I do, and I thrive in being that leader and helping people. And the challenge, every world record brings something different out.
Yeah.
15 world records total, and everyone brings something different. New people, new challenges, new planes, new site pictures, new structure, new engineering on the skydive, and that stuff totally makes me excited about it. So yeah. I don't know if that answers your question, Marcus, but there you go.
Well, it does. It actually answers that in a bunch of other ones from my perspective. That first of all, you're talking about feeling nerves and addressing it with meaning. In other words, why am I here? Tapping into that which helps us to break through these perceptual barriers that can become real, right? If you get nervous enough, what happens to your performance?
Mm-hmm.
What happens to your safety,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the fear creates the danger, and it creates the incompetence that we're afraid of in the first place. So we got to address the fear. But here's the question I would ask beyond this: is start with a statement of my own experience. Is that if my winning formula is, when in doubt, even if I'm afraid, do it anyway. If I always have that approach, my experience is bad things will sometimes happen, because sometimes my physical sensations in my body that turn into thoughts of negativity are actually warning me that if I do this, I'm a moron. You know, that my skills aren't there, or the weather's not there,
Mm-hmm.
or my team is not there to do this thing, and my gut is telling me no.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we nurture this kind of the wisdom to discern whether it's time to suck it up, find meaning, breathe slower, get back in your body and do it anyway? Or is it time to say,
Mm-hmm.
retreat, back off of this one? So what are your thoughts on that?
I've had friends quit skydiving because they had a close friend pass away in the sport, and then they had kids, so they realized that this like death really brings the reality of what we do into focus. And I have experienced the ultimate pain. I haven't lost my partner, but losing my dad. And, you know, Brian, you and I both have lost countless of friends to the sport. And I had I had a wise person in my life once say, skydiving takes so much from you. Why do you keep doing it? And instinctively I said, because it gives me back so much more.
Yep.
And I really believe that skydiving has given me purpose. It's my lifestyle, my livelihood. It's where I met my husband. It has an amazing community, freedom. Yeah, it's a sport that I don't think I could ever just walk away from. And I feel so fortunate to have been born in a family of skydivers and have been left a legacy. And I don't feel pressure to have to uphold my dad's legacy. I feel the freedom that I get to create my own, but he definitely paved a way for that to happen. I definitely know that without him, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Definitely with the opportunity and with the name has been awesome.
Sure, absolutely. And for somebody that could see the dream so clearly as your dad did, like we've said, it's contagious. You know, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The sport is beautiful just in the way that a flower is beautiful, but unless somebody sits down and studies it and talks about its positive aspects from multiple angles, to me, this is what appreciation is, right? You don't just say, oh, that's a pretty flower and move on. You're not going to get off on it as much as you could until you list off why it's so awesome. And you write books about why it's so awesome. And then you realize that that book wasn't enough and you got to write another one. Because this sport is that, it is that deep in awesomeness. Yeah. So, but the other, this thing that keeps coming back, and I don't know that we're ever going to be done discussing it, is okay, so somebody's in the airplane on a world record attempt, and you can see it on their face, they're really, really nervous, you know, or maybe it's a tandem student. Maybe it's somebody going up on their, you know, Cat C, their level 3 release dive, and they look gray, you know, there's no blood in their face, and they're staring into space, and they're just, you can tell that unless something shifts, they're going to bring out the worst case scenario somehow. And a few of them, they're going to be the one that just breaks out of it anyway. They're going to leave the plane and be just fine. But it seems to me that when somebody turns gray like that, likely more likely than not, you really need to be saying, something to them at the very least to change the way they feel or put their seatbelt back on, right? But that's that.
Yeah.
What do you say?
I absolutely agree, and I believe that this all goes along the lines of mentorship. That why it sucks, because most people don't even pick up on these cues, and so you're like, oh, just suck it up, man. Oh yeah, high five. Oh yeah, blue sky, like this. Like I really believe in connection with the person. So I have two stories. So what would I do? I really believe in making eye contact with someone. Sometimes I don't like to interfere if it's someone else's student. If it's someone else's student, I will make eye contact with the instructor for permission to interact with their student, or I would cue in the instructor, you need to pay attention to your student. If I'm allowed into their circle, I would just make eye contact with that student, maybe a hand on the shoulder, and take a breath with them. And because if you're in the plane, it is the worst time to have a conversation because it's loud, their hearts are racing, and they're just not mentally prepared to absorb whatever you have. That's why I dislike it when instructors are giving the last bit of information right before you leave. I'm like, they didn't hear you. They're not listening. So I like just to make that connection with people and smile. I am big on smiling. I can't tell you how many people tell me, wow, I saw you smile on the plane and everything just calm. I don't even notice I'm smiling all the time. So that means a lot. Another story I want to share is on the last women's world record. It was probably the first time a lot of those negative thoughts about doing what I do as a mom went away. And I had an interesting experience with one of the Aussie girls. And let me tell you, Aussie girls are badass. They're totally tough as nails, can handle, totally adaptable. I love that. And I try to emulate that. So I had a couple of the Aussie girls on my plane, and I was docking on one and another girl. I was closing a pod, and I kept getting there before them. And I told them, like, oh, I'll slow down, don't worry. We should really build in sequence. I don't really see where you guys, because they're floating up, I'm on level, so I don't really see exactly where they are. It's one of those trust factors that you have. And I definitely had it with those girls that I was docking on. And there was one jump, I collided with another girl. No big deal. I remember Jen Sensenbaum, because I was also a plane captain for her and then her sector. She's like, oh, our leader is gone. And as soon as she had that thought, I was right back in my slot, no drama, our whole section built, whatever. And I honestly, I forgot about it by the time I landed. And we kept doing this same build on every jump. And one jump, I noticed the Aussie girl was questioning something. And I just put my hand on her and I was like, what's going on? And she goes, I am really afraid that I'm going to knock you out and your mom. And that's really scary for me. And for her to be so open and honest about that, I was like, whoa. I just stepped back and just took a breath with her and put my hand on her shoulder, because I don't do this recklessly, right? I communicate with my husband. We agree that this is the life we live. We have set things up so had anything happen, we're prepared, and we don't have to have GoFundMe accounts for whatever expenses happen after you die. And we're very thoughtful about this. This is the life we live. We want to, just like you would in a skydive, we've dirt dived how we're doing this. And so she doesn't know that, right? So I looked at her in the eye and I just said, my husband and I agree that this is okay, no matter what happens. And I looked at her and I said, I got your back. I trust you. Let's just do it. And she looked at me and she was like smiling, and I went, I was surprised because she's so tough and she's so cool. That but I respected that, and I respected the space, and so we talked as a little sector team on how we were going to make this build, and we decided not to change anything. And then I tell you, those girls were fast as lightning get into their slots. No fear. Everything is all good. And I think just being able to be honest with the people that you're jumping
Yeah. Yeah. That's
to
hard.
and confide in you without judgment is really important in those stressful situations.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're a team, and teams need to talk about everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to have
Yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
clarifying conversation, because to put a name on a fear is to get control over it to a certain degree, to figure out what is it that I'm afraid of specifically. And you know, there's of course there's multiple
Mm-hmm.
angles that we have to take on these things that are freaking us out. Sometimes it's complete neurosis and it's based in nothing other than this looks kind of like something that happened a long time ago that ended badly. You know, my Pavlovian conditioning kicking in. But usually it's something that you can
Yeah.
get a little bit of leverage on as you dig deeper into it and figure it out. And with our friends around us, and like I love how you said to make eye contact, to smile, to physically touch the nervous. You know, we talk about the grieving. Well, let's talk about the nervous. You know,
Mm-hmm.
to me it's the same
Yeah.
thing. You know, just it's like the crying child. Well, what do they really need? They need your love. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not always easy to love somebody that's acting out or closed off because they don't appear to be asking for it, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
just like giving water to somebody who's on your mountaineering expedition, they can hold you back if they get dehydrated and fall off the mountain.
Yeah.
So you take care of everybody because they're
Mm-hmm.
part of the team.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I try to, whenever I can in the airplane and I see that nervous person, you know, lay a hand or two, better yet, on them, and just not even move, just stay there for that, because our rules socially are different in the airplane, aren't they, in terms of what
Mm-hmm.
physical contact is okay.
Yeah.
You wouldn't necessarily sit in a business meeting and put your hand on somebody's knee, especially if you don't really know them.
Yeah.
Isn't it great that our barriers open up when we're in the plane? We could be more loving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or some people close down. It's like the elevator syndrome. Like all of a sudden people are like, "Don't touch me. It's weird. We're
Yeah.
close."
Well, yeah, they're probably the ones that don't need it. But
Mm-hmm.
the nervous ones, they're really they get a little bit lost, and of course that scared person can hurt other people too. You know, with their
Mm-hmm.
accidental incompetence from their closedness. So open up the flower. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So good. Good, good, good. Well, we're a little bit short on time, and I knew right off the bat that there's no way that Melissa and I are going to get to the end of the questions that come in. I was looking through the scrolling chat, and there was a bunch of them that I was like, oh wow, this guy just started a drop zone, and they want to become like, you know, Skydive Chicago, and what do I have to do to be so awesome? These could go on. Maybe we'll address his for a moment. I don't know if you saw this one. I just scrolled up to it. I'll read it though, and then we'll have to wrap up at some point. We recently started.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really excited. Gary Fletcher. Let's see.
Yep. Did you find that one?
Yep, I got it right here.
Yeah, we didn't start out small. We purchased a Super Van 900 with 50 acres of land bordering on our airport. We want to be the Skydive Chicago in our area. We're very small right now, but hope to be large one day. We have a small staff, but it is a great staff. What what would be your best advice for how to gain some traction in the area? That's a good one. So
Wow, I love that you want to be a big drop zone, Gary, but I will tell you my personal reservations about being a big drop zone is that there's so much more. I think a mid-sized drop zone is
mm,
I think mid-size you can still keep the quality of community because in a big drop zone, people have a tendency to get lost. And the way the culture is in our sport is we don't really bridge those gaps. Sometimes every once in a while, we might have some jumpers that are really helpful and can help, but they will only do so much because they might not be getting paid or whatever. when you have a bigger drop zone, you have bigger expenses, bigger liability, more payroll, and it's very, very stressful. I think when you're mid-size, you can still, I think as a fun jumper, you can still have that plane that you love to jump, and you have the people that are there. And when you have a closer, tight-knit community, you really can build your jumpers in bridging that into your future instructors, homegrown, if you will. Mid-size, super van, single lane. I think single engine planes are a lot easier to maintain than twin engines. But if you want to be a big drop zone, I am not going to squash things. I really think that you should go on it. I think that would be something to do some consulting on. Just make sure. I think if you have the leadership and networking to build yourself through that as you grow, you can see what your bigger picture is, so you know all the little that can help build you there. But for me, coming from a big drop zone and having, I worked at, I am now hanging out with my husband's Cessna drop zone and jumping out of a Cessna. I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This simplicity, the stress is gone. And I'm hanging out with tandem students, which I normally never do. And just, I am connecting the dots, sharing the history. I'm like, wow, when I'm in a big drop zone, I don't do that because I'm tired and I'm exhausted and I have so much to do and so many people to meet with and whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, don't rush.
But Gary, if you want to do it, my hats are off to you, and I really think you should. I think that getting good consulting, having a good advising panel through this process is very important. Have your big picture laid out, your strategy to get there, and you can do it.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, any dream that you come up with, there's a way to make it come into fruition somehow, some version of it. It's funny because when you were starting to answer that, I was like hearing what you were saying and hearing stuff in between, or at least what I heard in between the words. One of which was, you don't have to just make your goal to be a big drop zone. If you target to be a great drop zone, if that's your fundamental goal, regardless of the size, great vibe, great people, keep great people. When you've got great staff who really care, who have the skills, find a way to keep them. Susie Bassi taught me that one, right? Keep your good people, but also keep your good customers. Keep them coming back. It might just be a tandem student where you see a glimmer in their eye. That tandem student might become your drop zone pilot / rigger / who knows what. So you got to see the potential within people's eyes and just nurture, blow on every fire, every little spark, blow on it and make it a great drop zone for the people. So that would be my yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of investment in. Yeah, there's a lot of investment in time, facilities, equipment, but I think oftentimes people forget to invest in the people. I love this about James, and he brought me on. He has me assigned to a specific part of the business, which is Facebook advertising, which I kind of knew a little bit about, but he has invested in me. I've gone to conferences, I've done tons of online tutorials and setting everything up, and he's investing in me, not because I'm Melissa Nelson-Lowe and I've got all this resume. He sat down and interviewed me face to face to make sure that I was going to be able to get along with his team. And his team aren't made up of a bunch of skydivers, so they didn't know me from Adam. And I, not being there to prove myself, but being there just to be like, yeah, willing to learn. I want to know this stuff. I want to help the company and build the company and be an asset. And that's what James wants. He wants someone that's going to bring value to the business. But he teaches the same in skydiving, but we don't do that with instructors. He often, this is how James puts it. How many jumps do you have? Do you have your medical? Do you have your tandem? Which, manufacturer are you rated in? We don't talk to them about what's your passion? What are your goals? What are your dreams? because then that way you really know if they're going to fit into your drop zone culture. The other thing James talks about, which I totally resonate with, is does your business have core values? And if you don't have core values, you should sit down and consider what those are, because then that way you can always go back to them and make sure that you're making decisions based on the values that your business, that you and your business find most important to you.
Yeah, love that. To actually be specific in the naming of your aspirations.
Mm-hmm.
You might not be there yet. You know, I want to be the most loving, caring, safest drop zone in the world that creates world champions, you know, in every different discipline. And okay, I'm not there yet, but let's at least write that down, you know, the Gettysburg Address of your drop zone hood.
Yep, and make sure everyone on your staff knows it, because when they know what your core values are, they can uphold them as well. And that way the whole team is on the journey together and upholding what is important to the drop zone as a whole.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, you have high standards for yourself, you have high standards for your drop zone, your sport, maybe your planet. Hey, how about that? You know, and we expand all of this stuff with intention. That's our power, you know, in the now, right? So I think this was great. I think it doesn't have to be over, but at some point I have to say, let's call this officially over for this time. But I would love to have you back again and evolve this conversation to where it hasn't gone. Tons of space.
Awesome. I'd love to.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, we've been having great conversations since we were both kids, and so let's just keep on with that, right?
I know. I love it.
Yes,
I love it.
Good. Well, thank you so much, and you can stick around, and maybe the people that are here on Zoom, we can pop you on, and we can all have kind of a fun conversation for a few before we deal with that.
Sounds good.
But thank you so much. Thank you. I love skydiving, and that's why I do what I do.
In a silver car with a borrowed guitar, ready to travel so far.